Strange Magic, written by Suzana Thompson, narrated by Sarah Sampino. Chapter 10. Did you know that your dad was going to die? I blurted this out without preamble. The words hung in the air between us, and I wished that I could take them back. Duncan and I were walking in the park, and he had just remarked on the leaves changing color. No, Duncan answered. It was like any other day. Dad went to work and I went to school. He had a massive heart attack. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was already too late. How awful, was all I could say. Mom had to break the news to me, he continued. I couldn't believe it. It didn't seem real. I was kicking myself now. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked you that. It's okay, Duncan said. I don't mind talking about my dad. I've been thinking about him a lot since you almost got hit by lightning. I'm sure now that it was his time to go. My startled gaze met his. You really believe that? Yes, he said. Like I said, it was like any other day at first. Not with you, though. As soon as I woke up, I felt like something was wrong. I nodded in agreement. That's how I felt, too. Suzannah, I've never had a premonition before in my life. Not even when... Duncan's voice faltered. I waited expectantly for him to continue, but he just kicked the leaves on the path. His suddenly tense mood made me suspect that this had something to do with his ex-girlfriend. I was very curious about her, but he had made it clear that he didn't want to talk about her. I wanted to get the conversation back on track. I've been wondering how you knew where to find me that day. I've been wondering that myself, Duncan said. I don't really know how. It was like I was on autopilot, and I didn't have to think. I just drove to where you were. Like that time at school, I mused, when I was starting to faint. You called me that time, he reminded me. This had caused an argument between us in the past, but now we were friends. Yeah, you told me that, but I honestly don't remember doing that. Just like the thing with Caitlin. My guess is that sometimes your abilities just take over without you even realizing it. They are very strong. Who knows what else you can do? I stopped walking. What do you mean, what else I can do? What else is there? Duncan's cell phone rang. Hi, Mom. As he answered it, his smile and raised eyebrows told me that he was remembering our first encounter in the park. Okay, sounds great. I'll be right there. He hung up and widened his eyes at me in mock terror. Mom doesn't want my dinner to get cold. She's all excited about her new recipe. Want to come over for dinner? Sorry, I said, but my parents are expecting me home for dinner too. Chicken. This time I think you're the one who might need to save my life. Oh, stop, I laughed. Don't forget that your mom can read your mind. If she could, she would stop cooking. Anyway, we'll have to finish our talk another time. Gotta go. Bye, Suzannah. Bye, Duncan. Enjoy your dinner, I called after him. That night, before sleep overtook me, I thought about how much my relationship with Duncan had changed in the short time that I had known him. I felt so close to him now. For a brief moment, my dream kiss with him flashed in my mind. Immediately, I willed myself to stop thinking of that. I was happy with the way things were now, and I didn't need to indulge in fantasies. The next day at school, I stopped in the bathroom before English class. When I stepped out of the stall, Mandy and another girl were looking at themselves in the mirror. Mandy applied lipstick, while I washed my hands. I struggled to remember the other girl's name. She was the one who had invited me and Brad to her party, yet she was still friends with Mandy. Megan. The name had finally come to me. Mandy and Megan. How cute, I thought. I think Duncan's gay, Mandy announced. No, Megan protested. He's so hot. I stood frozen at the sink, even though I had already finished washing my hands. I know, Mandy said, but we've been going out for a month, and he still hasn't tried to have sex with me. At first, it was sweet, but now it's just weird. That is weird, Megan agreed. Maybe he's religious or something. There might still be hope. Mandy smirked at me knowingly. You sure don't have that problem with Brad. He's always ready to go. I wanted to be anywhere else except where I was at that moment. Grabbing a paper towel, I prepared to flee. Hey, no hard feelings, Mandy assured me. It's not like I was going to marry him. I'm too young to be tied down like that. It was time to move on, you know? The bell spared me from having to answer. I was glad, despite it meaning that I was now late for English. The teacher gave me a disapproving look when I hurried into class, but didn't say anything, probably because I had never been tardy before. I felt Duncan's eyes on me, but I couldn't bring myself to look at him just yet. He let me be for all of 2 minutes. What are you so happy about? Inexplicably, I was practically bursting with this emotion. Why does everybody ask me that? Can't I just be in a good mood? Sure you can. He continued to speak to me with his thoughts. Why won't you look at me, though? I carefully composed my face into a neutral expression and turned my head in his direction. See, I'm looking at you. Something funny happened to my stomach when I looked into his pale blue eyes. I was glad that I could speak to him silently, because I was pretty sure there would have been a nervous tremor in my voice if I had spoken aloud. What was happening to me? I had to get a hold of myself. I grasped at the first thing that came to mind to change the subject. Are you going to Megan's party? Duncan made a face. Only because Mandy wants to go. These things are usually full of drunken idiots. We're going too. I've never been to a big party like that. You haven't been missing anything, he said. No matter what Duncan said, I was still excited to go. Saturday evening found me standing before my closet and debating what to wear. Brad had voiced his preference for the pink mini dress. You look so hot in that dress, babe, he had leered at me. That was exactly the reason that I definitely wasn't going to wear that dress. I didn't want to encourage him. I picked out a black skirt that fell to the knee and a red blouse. My lightning bolt necklace and gold hoop earrings completed the look. My shoes had a sensible heel. I wouldn't be turning any heads in this outfit. I wasn't going to the party to show off, but just to have a little fun. Brad actually walked up to the door when he picked me up. He knew enough to be polite to my parents when he assured them that we wouldn't be drinking. I was not reassured, however, when he winked at me after we sat down in his car. What they don't know won't hurt 'em. You look pretty, babe. Still wish you would have worn the pink dress. He looked at my chest. Cool necklace. Thanks. I was glad that he had to keep his eyes on the road. When we got to Megan's house, I could hear the music from outside. Inside, people had to shout to be heard. Brad greeted people as I followed him through the crowd. We found Megan in the kitchen, where the noise was more tolerable. She was even peppier than usual and actually hugged me. I suspected that she had already started drinking. Brad handed me a drink, which I held onto just so I wouldn't look out of place. I planned to set it down somewhere when no one was looking. Luckily, Brad became distracted messing around with his buddies. The party wasn't as much fun as I had expected it to be. I felt like an observer rather than a participant. It turned out that Megan's parents were out of town, which was why she had picked this particular weekend to have the party. Megan had been talking to me until Mandy appeared. She informed us that we needed to go freshen our makeup up in the bathroom. My mood had lifted when I saw Duncan, but I was dragged off by Megan and Mandy. Mandy wasted no time in telling us the real reason for our meeting in the bathroom. Tonight's the night. I'm going to have sex with Duncan. Megan squealed excitedly, but I felt like Mandy had just punched me in the stomach. She chattered on, but I didn't hear anything else she said. My hands gripped the cool porcelain sink. Eventually, I realized that they were talking to me. Earth to Susie! Mandy snapped her fingers in front of my face. Are you okay? Megan asked. Yeah, I finally responded. Guess I had too much to drink. Not used to it, huh? Mandy smiled at me. It takes time to build up tolerance. Do you need to puke? I couldn't take any more of this surreal conversation with Duncan's girlfriend and Brad's ex-girlfriend, I reminded myself. No, I'll be okay. I'm gonna go find Brad. I escaped before they could say anything else. Downstairs, my eyes didn't listen to my brain. Instead of looking for Brad, my gaze sought Duncan. He spotted me too, and walked toward me. I stood rooted to the spot, seemingly unable to move or look away. His expression was puzzled. What's wrong, Suzana? She's not feeling so great. Gotta get a few more parties under her belt, Mandy answered for me as she wound her arm around Duncan. He scowled at me. You've been drinking? Yes, I shouted. So what? I can have fun too. Hey, babe. Brad threw his arm over my shoulders. You need another drink. I hadn't even noticed his approach. This time, I took the drink that he offered me and took a defiant sip. Duncan gave me one last disapproving look and allowed Mandy to lead him away. They reached the corner of the room, and she leaned in to kiss him. With her high heels on, she was almost as tall as he was. I took another sip of my drink and turned away. I want to get out of here, I told Brad. He smiled at me. Sure, babe. We made our way toward the door and outside into the cool night air. You gonna finish that, babe? I realized that I was still holding my drink. No. Brad took it from me and downed it. Okay, let's go. I leaned back in the car seat and stared out the window into the darkness as Brad drove. The silence was a relief after the noise of the party. I was so lost in my own thoughts that I didn't notice where we were going until Brad stopped the car and turned off the engine. Where are we? I looked at Brad for the first time since we had left the party. You can see the whole city from up here. He gestured toward the windshield. I glanced at the city lights. It was an impressive view, but I was in no mood to enjoy it. I thought you were taking me home. I want to be alone with you. He leaned closer to me and kissed me before I had a chance to say anything else. I could smell the alcohol on his breath, but that wasn't the only reason I pulled away. His hands were already starting to wander toward my chest. Let's go in the back seat, Brad said. Got more room back there. I have to go home. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to call my parents to come pick me up. Don't you like me, babe? I can make you feel real good. His voice had become husky. He crowded me against the door and ended up kissing my neck when I turned my head away. I pushed in vain against his chest, and his hands groped at my blouse. I stopped trying to fight him and felt behind me for the door handle instead. Managing to get the door open, I fell out of the car. Brad was still in the driver's seat. You okay, babe? He opened his door and got out of the car. I scrambled to my feet before he could get to me. Don't touch me! Come on, don't be like that. Get back in the car. We'll just enjoy the view for a while. I looked at him warily. I really just want to go home. That's a good idea, Duncan said. Brad was startled. Where'd you come from? I'll drive you home, Suzana. Duncan's voice was dangerously calm. My purse. I hurried to grab it from the floor of Brad's car, where it had fallen during our struggle. Then I began to walk away with Duncan toward his car. Hey! Brad grabbed my arm. Where are you going? Duncan whirled on him. Let go of her. He had a look on his face that made Brad drop my arm and step back. Man, I wasn't gonna... Let's go, Suzana, Duncan said, in that same tone of controlled fury. We resumed walking toward his car. He opened the passenger door for me, and I sat down in the car. You're not gonna steal this one too, Brad suddenly yelled. I looked up to see him barreling toward us. Then he fell backwards and landed on his butt. Hey! He looked around in bewilderment. What the hell? Who pushed me? Duncan ignored him as he sat down in the driver's seat and started the car. I pulled my door shut. Thank you, I said as we pulled away. He didn't look at me. Fix your shirt, he growled. I looked down to see that some of the buttons on my blouse had popped open and that my bra was exposed. I burned with shame as I quickly buttoned them. When I dared a glance at Duncan, I saw that he was still looking straight ahead as he drove. His jaw was clenched. How did you— Put your seatbelt on, he snapped. I pulled it across me and clicked it into place. Why are you yelling at me? Why did you get in the car with him? Duncan countered. You saw that he was drunk. How could I answer that question? I had been out of my mind with jealousy when I saw Mandy kiss him. I was trying to prove to myself that I didn't care. I had wanted to get away from the sight of them together. It was hard to admit these things even to myself. Remembering what Mandy had said in the bathroom made me snap. I can go where I want. So you wanted to get in the car with a drunk idiot? He's not. I mean, he's my boyfriend, I said. You need to have better taste in boyfriends, unless you liked having him rip your clothes off. There was a sharp edge to his voice. He didn't. I mean, he wasn't. I saw what was happening. Duncan smacked the steering wheel with his hand. I was handling it myself. Yes, I could see that. The guy outweighs you by how much? Even if you somehow managed to convince him to drive you home, you might not have gotten there in one piece. Damn it, Suzana. You can't put yourself in situations like that. We were quiet until he pulled into my driveway. Are you okay? His voice was gentle now. It made me want to cry. Yes, I'm fine. Thanks again. Okay, he said. I have to go back for Mandy. I left her at the party. Duncan, are you really going to— I shook my head. Good night. Wait, he said. What did you want to ask me? Nothing. It was nothing. No, tell me, he insisted. Going to what? Mandy. Never mind. What about Mandy? Duncan's voice had taken on an intimate tone I didn't recognize. For no reason at all. I was no longer upset. It made no sense that I was thinking about my dream kiss with Duncan. She's waiting for you. I didn't give him a chance to walk me to the door. In a flash, I was out of the car and sprinting toward my house. That night, I had the dream again.